So number two, after the drawing, is enhance your knowledge base by reading, by researching, by visiting places. If you, may God forbid, I haven't actually gotten any single student who would like to be a ceramist, but God forbid, if one of you is actually want to be a ceramist, I would like you to actually go and visit maybe a ceramics factory. You know how the ceramics are made, how a bowl, how a plate, how these kind of things are first manufactured, then they are put in the kiln, then they are glazed, and etc. etc. And imagine when you'll be sitting in an interview in one of the top institutions, universities in Pakistan, and you'll say that I'm interested in ceramics, and they say, okay, you know, tell us about ceramics, and say, well, I went to this ceramic factory, and this was very nice because I found out that this is how the ceramics is made, and blah 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 blah. Imagine they'll be very impressed. You say the student is actually interested in this field, and you will be taken in right away. So these two things are the most important things for you to apply to any of the university, especially National College of Arts. National College of Arts, now we can touch it a little bit, has some um, weird sort of situation wrapped around it, which it's actually not linked with any other institution. What is those? Number one, it's a federal institution. So federal institution means, and it till a very long for a very long time, NCA was the only federal institution in Lahore. I think there are only a couple of more federal institutions now in Lahore, but till a very long time, it was the only institution. Now, if you are a federal institution, then you have to have a quota system. So in NCA, 50% of the students come from Punjab, and the 50% of the students come from the other rest of the Pakistan, including all our provinces plus Azad Kashmir, and I think there's another seat as well of Kabaili areas as well. So automatically, when you are going now, number one, number two, it is probably the smallest institute in Lahore. If you compare it with any other same fine arts situation, all the other institutes, Punjab University, University of Lahore, ComSats, are huge universities with huge infrastructure. NCA, it has you can actually take a round in NCA in less than 5 minutes. This is that small. I've been doing it throughout my life, so I know it. So, because of this very sort of lack of space, uh, they cannot um, have more than X number of students. So number one, the strength is already slashed by 50% because the 50% are going to go to the rest of the provinces. And they have less number of intake. That is why. And the third thing, which is the most important thing, that everybody wants to go to NCA. The competition becomes so incredibly high during the admission that it's actually unbelievable. These are the three major reasons, because the fact that you have a 50-50 or a 1 in a 10 or 1 in a 20 chances of getting into NCM. But otherwise, in most of the other universities, you have a fairly good chance if you have done your homework as far as the previous three things are concerned. Number one, you have done your drawing well. Number two, you have collected your enough information, which is going to help you in your aptitude test. And number three, if you perform well in your interview, you should be able to get into any other institution except NCA.
Okay, so in the aptitude test, that's also like just general information about if you're applying in architecture or textile. So it's a different test for all these departments, or it's the same one?
It's the same one. It's the same one, and it has questions about fine arts in general. They are basic general knowledge questions. Sometimes they do ask questions about the current scenario of our country. They might even ask that, who is the current prime minister or whatever. Basic things that you can actually get from newspapers, or if you are just a little bit of well aware of whatever is going on.
Okay, so maybe if they just follow like a few news pages on Instagram or Twitter or other places, I think that's the information they'll probably get.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and another thing that I wanted to clarify was that what is the most, because you just mentioned that it's very competitive. So, what is going to be most competitive, the aptitude test, the interview, or the drawing? And one more thing, that does everybody go through the interview, or the ones who pass both the tests are the ones who are going to sit for the interview?
Okay. So the most competitive is the drawing, and that's where the pre-selection is done, because in drawing you get a huge variety. You get people making cartoons, and you get people who are making actually such brilliant drawings that it's unbelievable. There are people who are coming in and trying their luck for the consecutive third year to get into NCA. So just imagine how much preparation how much anxious they are to actually get into NCA. So they have been, drawing from the last 3 years, not three
Wow.
months or 3 weeks or whatever. And there was, when I was as a student, as well as a young teacher. Now I don't get into these kind of things, but when I was there, I used to actually see. I used to go, and one of my favorite part was to actually see the portfolios of the students who used to come for their interviews. Because in some of the portfolios that you will see, you just say, "Wow!" You know that the drawings are so good. As I just mentioned, that they have been actually drawing from the last 2 years, 3 years, but they are obviously less in number. But you do get a huge variety of this. But that's where the make and break kind of a thing is. So you need to perform very well in drawing to make yourself known to the NCA people, or even get yourself recorded. And the aptitude set. So everyone who pass, not even pass, but actually has, what they do is as far as my information is concerned, for example, if they are supposed to take, let's say, 250 students, they will take the first 350 students for the interview, because they're not going to interview 1500 students which have applied in the university, because it's just not worth it. So they'll just pick up the first 350, and out of those 350 they'll further, during the interview process, shed another 100 and give the admission to the remaining 250 seats which are available in the college.
Okay, so any special advice on what students should be focusing on the drawing part? If like somebody who's working on it for 2, 3 years, so they would do everything. But if you're short on time, or you just started, like you have a couple of months, so what are the main areas that need to be? There's like no room for error in those.
Um, the most important things that a drawing teacher, look into your drawing is that the proportions should be right. By proportion, as when we say cartoon, when I said that somebody who's going to draw a cartoon, they are going to draw a head. If somebody has been, you are asked to draw a figure, they will draw a head, but they will draw a similar size of body as well. So that will automatically become a cartoon. So the proportion has to be right. In any still life, in any live drawing, in anything that you draw, what the most important thing is the proportion, and also the quality of line. So you need to work on your quality of line. Most of the students which actually come to us, we tell them the first thing that we actually make them draw is a line. um, Everyone who is here and who has actually have been has been drawing as a child, in the childhood till date, would draw a broken line, a line which will be going like this. The first thing that we ask our students to do is to, uh, drawing a broken line inside the studio is a crime.
Okay.
Simple,
All right.
simple. So you need
So
to get out of this habit of drawing a broken line, but all your lines should be saying that I am confident and I know how to draw. And the second thing is the proportion.
Okay, all right. So that's perfect. And any resources, like, now we have like a lot of online resources and things that we can follow. So do you have any recommendations on that?
Unfortunately, not. but I know that the internet is actually full of it. So if you just go to YouTube or if you go to any other places and just type in how to draw, because remember, you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be expert, and especially in different mediums. They don't expect you to be good in watercolor or oil color or pastels or whatever. But you need to know how to draw. So that means by how to draw is by drawing with a pencil, and use a 2B, a soft pencil. Don't use BHB or any hard pencil. Use 1B, 2B, 3B sort of a soft pencil, and your drawing should be effortless.
Okay, and do you recommend that, students should be watching these videos because some of the instructors are not really happy about it, that, that's a waste of time. But do you think it's going to be useful? Because it's a practical skill.
It is a
So,
practical skill, yeah, exactly. See, it depends what the other person is actually teaching or the way that they're teaching. If most of the videos that some I have actually come across, especially from people from the West, tell you the basics of the drawing, starting from, for example, we don't teach and not even ask our students to do the shading. The shading comes at a very last sort of a part. What we are interested to teach our students is as I said earlier, the quality of line, the proportions, and the structure. Even a human, the bones, the skull, the everything has a specific structure. So if you understand the structure of a table, that is when you can actually draw it correctly. But if you don't understand the table and if you're trying to draw it with your memory and with your eye skill, that's not well. You might be able to draw it right, but a correct teacher or a person who's checking those will be able to identify that you're not actually have that skill. So skill set is important. So if a teacher on YouTube is teaching you a skill set, how to draw a pigeon, how to draw a human figure, and they are teaching by skills that the structure is based on these things, that's perfectly fine. If they're telling you to draw it some other way, you need to know. I really cannot comment on all the ways that the people do, but you need to be very careful in that as well.
okay, all right. So, I think that should be what's covering it. Any other tips on the day of the exam that, what should do's and don'ts of what shouldn't be done at all in the exam or the paper?
The only factor, I've been actually sitting in taking exams and taking interviews for a very, very long time. The only single thing which differentiate between probably a successful candidate and a non-successful candidate is confidence.
Okay.
If you have the skill set, if you have the knowledge, if you have been studying and you have been practicing and everything, and if you have not been able to communicate it there that day with the confidence, if you have lacked that confidence, if you are choked, then you will not be able to perform. So firstly, the most important thing is that you should be very, very confident. That you shouldn't be overconfident, I wouldn't say that, but you should be confident, because that will definitely help you in performing very well.
Okay, and like you said that there's going to be no expectation of a life drawing. It's just going to be a still drawing expectation.
In NCA, yes. The only two places that I mentioned earlier who are actually still are requesting for live drawing is PIFD and Punjab University. The rest are most of the other institutions are demanding only still.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for joining. Allah
Most
Hafiz.
welcome. Allah Hafiz.